Hello everybody, thank you so much for joining me on the channel today. This is Dad's Platinum Journey, and today we're looking at Final Fantasy VII, the original game, not the remake. That is going to be for a later time. But for now, we are on a nostalgic trip from 1997 with this classic PS1 title. So yes, this title was released up onto the PlayStation 1 in 1997. However, original development started with this in 1994, where they were actually going to be developing this game for the Super Famicom or for the Super Nintendo for us out in the West. But with the sort of price of cartridges and development cycles, they actually decided to try and go down a CD-ROM route. They looked at possible Sega Saturn, potentially Windows, which they would later release it on. But they settled on the Sony PlayStation. It was an unknown entity at the time. Sony was meant to be developing a console with Nintendo, but then decided to go their own route. That's another conversation for another day. But this game, yes, was released in 1997, but it was actually delayed slightly. It originally tried to bring it out in 96, but with some of the development, they wanted to work a little bit more longer on the game, polish it off, and actually take their time. And to be honest with you, this masterpiece deserves that attention. So absolutely fair play to Square to delaying it slightly on its release. Now, the version that you're seeing here today, it's the PS4 sort of, I suppose, remaster, although it's not technically called that. It's a version broken down from the Windows edition, which was released in 1998. So they've taken that version, kind of ported that over to PlayStation. It did see a PlayStation 3 release. It's all over the place now. You can buy this game on pretty much any console. So if you haven't already, please go out and play this. You know, it's on Switch, it's on Steam, it's on mobile. It's pretty much anywhere you want to pick up any sort of game title up on there. So I'm going to talk very real to you guys now. This is my absolute favourite franchise of all time, and like a lot of people, this is sort of where it all started for me. So this is a very special passion project. I'm working on Final Fantasy because it's a series that I just wholeheartedly love through and through. It started probably a couple of years after the release of it. It wasn't massively after, but growing up I was never exposed to role-playing games. I was a Nintendo boy. I was playing colourful platformers, football games, racing games, that sort of thing was sort of my jam, and I never really got that exposure to it. You know, I never played Zelda, and I never even heard of Final Fantasy until this one came out. I was actually at a friend's house, and he borrowed it off of someone, no idea who, and we were playing the opening segment of the game, and we couldn't get past the Scorpion boss. Couldn't get past it because every time it comes up, attack while the tail is up. Well, guess what we did? And yeah, got wiped out over and over and over again. But something about that gameplay really stuck with me. It resonated with me. And even though we sort of only saw the opening segment of the game, and really in the grand scheme of things, it's like the opening 10 minutes, I was mesmerized by the look of the game, by the feel of the game and how it played. And I wanted to see more. I just didn't know, and we ended up playing, I don't know, FIFA or something like that. We ended up changing it over to something else. I can't quite remember. And then there was another time when another friend of mine brought his PlayStation in. You know those school days when it's like end of term or end of year, and you can sort of bring in sort of stuff to do, like games and toys and stuff like that, to your school. And he brought his PlayStation in, and he sort of had a TV set up inside one of the hallways there, and he was playing Final Fantasy and played it all day. Just didn't go for lunch, just sat there and played Final Fantasy all day. And I sat with him. I was just hooked, asking him questions. He was probably so annoyed at me at the time. But it was just a moment where like I was getting exposed to this game and getting drawn in. I just remember specifically the moment where you're traversing between Sector 5 and Sector 6. He couldn't quite figure out whereabouts to go in terms of getting from one end to the other with the hands and the cranes and stuff. And, you know, getting into battles of Hell House and all that sort of thing. Like in there, and I just remember like going through that and just wanting to play this game. Like I was just like, I just want to play this game. Like, can I play it? It was like, nah, I'm playing it. I was like, fine, got to get a copy of this myself. So that moment came because as a teenager, I don't have my own money. So we were actually on holiday to France. My dad took me and another lad who's a relation to his partner. We went to Disneyland. And on the way back, we were on a ferry and they had a shop with PlayStation games all in the back there. And I was just like, can I go look at the PlayStation games? He's like, okay, you can pick one for me to buy. You can take it home with you. And I was like, sweet. So I was rummaging through the titles and I come across Final Fantasy VII. And that was it. It was just one of those moments where you just see it, that white case logo, very simple, but it stuck out. I grabbed that 3-disc box set, actually a 4-disc, and it came with a Final Fantasy VIII demo, which is fantastic, by the way. It came with that, and I held that PlayStation case up, and I passed it to my dad, and we took it over to the till and purchased it. And I've never looked back. And this game, it changed the way that I perceive video games to be. I never knew storytelling like it, a medium that could delve into and hook you in and make you want to see what the next part is. And I never knew a game to last like, 50, 60, like 100 hours of game. I was used to, football titles, racing titles, colourful platformers that you would sort of play. Eventually you'd run out of lives and have to start all over again. But this was just mesmerizing, and so many parts of the game just kind of blow your mind. The first time that you go onto the open world, that world map, and that music hits, and you're like, I can go anywhere. And it gives you that fantastic sense of adventure, and that's what this game brought to me. And ever since then, I've just been in love with Final Fantasy ever since. By the time I bought this game, Final Fantasy VIII was already out. So once I was finished with 7, I got 8. Not too long after that was 9, and then 10, and then so on and so on and so on. All the way up to present day with the remake. So I think if you're watching this video, you're going to be very much having a very similar story, perhaps. You knew somebody that played it and it got you hooked in, or maybe you bought it on a whim, or maybe you were a fan of the previous Final Fantasy entries and you knew what you're getting yourself into. Either way, there's no denying just how special this game truly is. Okay, let's start talking about these trophies and what it's going to take for you to hit that platinum bling. We've got 5 gold trophies that we're going to be tackling, as well as 13 silver and 13 bronze. So at first glance, there's not a massive amount to do, but there is some sort of grinding trophies, particularly post-game stuff. You've got a few trophies here that you're going to be able to see straight away. There's some nice easy bronze, first blood, breaking new ground, pretty easy stuff, as well as fledgling summoner. Consummate cross-dresser is going to be like our first missable. We're going to delve deep into how to obtain that one in just a moment. So as we make our way down the list here, we're going to see the next slot. We've got materia mastermind. That is just very simply leveling up a single piece of materia. Make sure you've got a 5-star in your loadout at all times. Best bromance is another missable. We'll have a look at that. Choco champion, that's going to be a nice easy one. That's going to be part of the story, and a nice little mini game at the bottom there. We're going to have a couple of other ones here. So sort of missables, we've got secret characters Yuffie and Vincent to collect, as you go through the game. We'll have a look at how to get that. And then making waves is also a side quest involving Yuffie. So get Yuffie, you better hit the side quest here to get that trophy. Next bit settled down here. There's a few grindy ones here. We've got coming up all nines, which is collecting basically, I think it's like 100 sort of billion gil. It's very loads of stuff on there. Level 99 with a character. Bahamut type 0, round table destruction. There's a lot of like grind and sort of missable stuff in there as well. We then start getting into limit breaks, and there's a silver trophy for every level 4 limit break, not only for collecting the item itself, but you actually need to level up every character's limit breaks or to hit the level 4. So we have a bunch of them here. On the next page there's also a few more that we're going to get into. There's also a gold trophy right at the bottom. There's not many story related trophies in this game, but you do get a lovely gold one for actually finishing it. So once you beat the game, you'll get that. The last screen that we're going to come on to now, which is basically going to be our final one, we're going to have the top one there, which you can't quite see, but it's getting the Master of Summon materia. We'll go through how to obtain that later, as well as defeating the weapons, so to speak. One is a story battle, which is the Diamond Disintegrator. Ruby weapon, Emerald weapon, they are optional secret bosses, which is going to take quite a fair amount of grinding to be able to be strong enough to be able to take those down. But I'll talk you through some loadouts and some tips in order to do that. And the final one is basically to fall in battle. That's an easy one. I'm sure you'll find somewhere to do that. But let's move on with the rest of the video. Just in case you haven't played this and you're interested in what's going to be coming for you. So this is a Japanese role-playing game. It's really sort of classic in its style. It's a turn-based RPG where you wait for a bar to fill up the ATB bar, and you can take actions as and when that kind of comes up. You'll end up having a maximum of 3 people in your party, but there's going to be multiple characters to be able to choose from. The characters don't differ too much. They have sort of difference in stats, but you'll be able to equip them with materia in order to give them certain powers and abilities to be able to use in battle. Now, we start the game as Cloud Strife. He is an ex-soldier, and he has found his way to a group called Avalanche, whose mission at this stage in the game is to help save the planet from the evil Shinra. Shinra are essentially looking to use these reactors to take the live stream up and use it as fuel to power their city. That is essentially going to end up killing the planet, which is what Avalanche are here to help with. Their mission at the start of this game is to blow up Reactor 1. The party members will consist of Barrett, who ends up staying in your party, and you also have other characters called Biggs, Wedge and Jesse, who are there to assist you on your journey here. You'll also meet characters like Tifa. She's also a member of Avalanche. You get her very early on. And you'll also meet a flower girl called Aerith, or Ares as she's known as in this particular title. It's just a translation change. Her name is actually Aerith. She is a very important character because she is a descendant of the Ancients. Now, the Ancients are a sort of a race of beings that were many years ago, and she's a descendant of those, and they somehow know how to get to what's known as the Promised Land, which is something that Shinra is particularly interested in. So she's very valuable for their research and how to obtain that. So not only do you have Shinra to contend with here in order to combat against, you're also going to come up against another big bad, Sephiroth, who is quite honestly if not the greatest sort of antagonist in video game history. He is evil to the core. He is a presence from Cloud's past, also a former soldier, and his mission is really to destroy the world. I'm not going to delve into specifics here, but we're basically going to be going after Sephiroth. Shinra are going to be a thorn in our side constantly throughout this game. This is going to be, a 50 to 100 hour, if you've not played this game before, kind of like storytelling as you go through this, okay? But I hope you enjoy the game, but let's talk a little bit more about some of those trophies. Right, so the first Missable I'm going to talk to you about is Best Bromance. It's a bronze trophy, and this is going to be a culmination of quite a long storyline as you play pretty much from the start of the game up until about a third of the way through towards the end of the first disc. There's a moment in the game where you're staying in a hotel at the Gold Saucer and you're going to go on a date with one of 4 characters. You have Barrett, Yuffie, Tifa, and Aerith. Now, whoever you go on a date with is determined on whoever has the highest point score at that particular point in the game. Now, the points, they start higher with the girls, and obviously Barrett is on the lowest. So you have got some work to do in order to kind of make sure you get that date with him, because Barrett is the one that you need to get the date with in order to get the trophy. Now, points are changed through dialogue options all the way up until that point, and they do start right from where you meet Aerith over in the Sector 8 sort of upper plate. You've got to get the flower, and then you've got to give it to Marlene, and then you meet Tifa, and you have to sort of annoy Tifa, annoy Aerith, favour Barrett, favour Jesse, to try and make sure you get the points over to him. And you will get minus points as well, so you have to make sure you choose the correct ones as you go through. And if you need a guide, there's a few available to make sure you know which ones to choose. But they're fairly obvious as you play it. The other thing as well to make sure that you do is whenever you get any options to change your party, make sure you keep the girls out of the party and then keep the boys in. So Barrett, Red 13, Kate Sith, Vincent, those are the party members that you want to play in it. And by the time you get through that, you should have the date with Barrett and get that bronze trophy. Okay, we're here at Wall Market, very early sort of stage of the game, and we're going to be getting the Missable Trophy Consummate Crossdresser here in this section. I'm going to walk you through the key things that you need to make sure that you get as you go through this part. So you start off the game by heading up into Don Caneo's, and you decide to get yourself a dress made. You'll need to get one that feels soft, and you need to get one that shimmers. You'll head yourself back over to the clothes store and you will receive that silk dress, which is going to be a really big part of you being able to get this trophy. The next section, you need to get yourself over to the gym and earn yourself the blonde wig. Now, these are the only 2 items that you need to actually continue the story. The rest of these are optional, but they heighten your chances of being picked. You may actually get picked with just those items. It can be a little bit random, but you will get an increased chance if you continue on with these next few items. So next one we're going to go into is we're heading to the materia shop. We're going to get ourselves a tiara. Now the materia shop owner is going to ask you to go over to the inn or the sort of the hotel and pick up an item for him. So head on down, get yourself over there and book a night. And in the middle of the night, you'll go over to the vending machine and make sure you've got 200 gil. Pick the most expensive item. You're going to take that item back over to the materia guy, and he is going to give you the item. Diamond tiara. And then we're going to move on to the next one here. You're going to go over to the cafe. Pick any food you want to on there. Tell them it was all right. And you're going to pick yourself up a pharmacy coupon. Go over to the pharmacy. This is the next stage. You're going to head on over to here and you're going to need to pick up some digestive. So just get some medicine for yourself for your troubles on here. Now what you need to do with this digestive, you need to take it all the way back up to the bar, and then inside the bar sort of restroom, there's a lady inside there who basically needs to go to the toilet. Give it to her. It's going to help her go. She's going to say thank you very kindly and give you some sexy cologne. Next stage, or the last stage, is head to this guy here and he's going to give you a membership card to the Honey Bee Inn. Once inside, you're going to head over to this room and you're going to get yourself into a little bit of an odd section. It's a really weird place. I'd recommend you explore it. But you're going to head into here and you're going to get a short sequence with Cloud. He's going to wake up the next morning. Do be very quick here because the honeybee girl does leave. So make sure you run on over, grab her. She's going to give you basically some lingerie to wear. Fantastic. The last thing you should do before you leave, though, is get the girls to put some makeup on. And that's going to make Cloud look absolutely divine. I don't think Corneo can really resist the lure of Cloud's strife in this one. So once you've got everything sorted out, get yourself changed over, and head on back to Don Corneo's sort of hideout here. It's not really hiding out, but it's his mansion. Now, I recommend making a save before you go, just in case it doesn't work, because there is actually a very slim chance, and you'd be unlucky not to, but there is a slim chance that you may not actually get the sequence here that you want. So he's going to make his choice, and of course, I'm going to choose Cloud. There's actually a really cool little bit of dialogue that I want to sort of show you at this one, where basically we're going to tell Don Corneo that we have a boyfriend called Barrett. So I'll show you how you kind of get that sequence as well. It's all part of the other trophy, the best bromance. So you're going to select this one here, and it's going to be like, yes, his name is Barrett. So extra bonus points for Barrett in order to there. That's enough for this one. Let's move on to the next trophy. Right, on to the next Missable, and it's quite a jump forward into the game here. You'll notice you're on the open world. We're going to be looking at getting Yuffie, which is the trophy Shuriken Join Us. You'll find her out in some forest areas. You'll kind of run around some random battles, and all of a sudden you'll just get this. She's not a particularly hard fight either, so just get through the fight, get through the battle. It'll be really, really super simple. She doesn't put up much of a fight. Then you'll end up in this screen here, and you'll need to go through 5 dialogue options. You have to get each one correct in order to obtain her. Try to avoid going over to the save point, as tempting as it may seem, or try to not to leave the area, because as soon as you do, she disappears and you have to try and find her all over again. Now, like I say, there's 5 options that you need to kind of get yourself through here, and each one you need to get done correctly, otherwise again she'll end up leaving. Yuffie, in terms of a character, in terms of the OG, doesn't add too much to the story. There's a whole side quest involving her with Wutai that you'll need to kind of go through, which is about as much as it kind of gets. But in terms of her lore and her story, she's quite interesting. And if you've played the remake, particularly the DLC that you get a lot more background into her character, and paints probably a much better light of herself than she was in the original. But you can make your own mind up as to the character and see what you think of her when you get her. But she is completely missable. You can go this game without seeing her at all, but best of luck on getting her. Right, so on to missable character number 2 here, Vincent, a real fan favourite in the Final Fantasy series. And you obtain him by going up to this safe in the Shinra mansion over in Nibelheim. The combination code is located around the mansion itself, and just punch in those numbers and you'll hit this fight. And it's a really tough boss battle, probably the toughest one you're going to face so far in this game. My tip and tactic really is to hit it with magical attacks to unleash the red side. That way you can hit it more with general attacks and limit breaks in order to kind of take the monster down. He's got some really sort of devastating hits here, so make sure you're equipped up to the eyeballs with potions and restore materia to try and keep yourself alive there. Once you've done it, you'll get the key to the basement and you'll be heading downstairs, where you'll get Vincent here. There's a little bit of back and forth. He requires a little bit of dialogue and a couple of dialogue choices here, nothing too crazy. Bit of back and forth, and you'll end up with this scene where as you go away, he'll end up coming in and joining your party, and he's well worth having as well. Right, so we're going to move on to this next trophy, and this is a completely missable area. The story doesn't actually tell you to go here. Once you've got yourself a tiny Bronco, you need to head yourself sort of west, and you'll end up at sort of an area, like an island, which is quite sort of long and thin as it goes up. And as you traverse it through, as long as you've got Yuffie in your party, you'll end up with this scene where she ends up actually taking all your materia. So you have nothing but just items and attacks to kind of go through. Get to the town, and it's a bit of a cat and mouse game where you'll just be chasing Yuffie around, and then she'll just be kind of kind of going around and taunting you a little bit as you go through this section. You end up sort of catching her, but then she ends up getting caught by Don Corneo. The Turks are involved. there's some lovely back and forth between like Cloud's party and the Turks. They end up actually helping each other in order to take down Don Corneo because they have their sort of similar interests, where Elena has been captured as well. So this whole section is completely missable. Like, it doesn't ask you to do this. This is a really separate thing to kind of go through and do. So if you fancy kind of going through this part, it's a really nice time to do it before the story kind of progresses on. So make sure you kind of get that. Once you've completed that sort of side area, there's still a little bit more to do in order to get the Leviathan materia. Now, you need to have Yuffie quite well leveled up. So once you've kind of got her, make sure that she's got her like limit breaks up and give her some levels, get her some decent materia leveled up. Make sure you've got like definitely Cure 2, M barrier. Make sure you've got those loaded up because you'll need it on this fight. Now, this boss, the difficult thing is the fact that it cures itself a lot. So make sure you put M barrier on the boss, and then you'll be able to actually chip away the health a little bit easier. All right, not much of a difficult fight, but the end of it is Leviathan materia for you. Okay, spoilers. Aerith is going to leave your party and then not return. So we need to make sure that we get her level 4 limit break sorted and done before you enter the Temple of the Ancients, please, because that is the last point we're going to be able to control her. What you need to do in order to get this is to actually get the item first of all. Head over to this area here in your buggy. Pop into this cave and speak to the man, and he'll give you some mithril. It's a sort of a determination of how many battles or fights that you've won. So make sure that you've like got the correct number. If you haven't, go out, fight, come back in again and get it. Then head over to this guy here. He's near the gold saucer. You need to go to him anyway. He has information on the keystone to get into the Temple of the Ancients anyway. Pop in and see him, give him the mithril, and then he'll ask you to go upstairs and you can get the Great Gospel from there. Now, in order to level up her limit break, you need to use her limit break so many times in order to get the second part of the level. Then to upgrade the level, you need to defeat so many enemies. Pop into the fight, spam a summon, make sure she's immune to Berserk because they Berserk them. That protects her from that. And then eventually, you better get yourself all the way up to level 4. Right, so on to the final Missable trophy. Now, this is an important one because you don't want to miss it. This is in Disc 2, so if you do, it's quite a long journey to kind of get back to here again. So I recommend some regular saves after each one to kind of make sure that you can kind of not lose too much progress if you do fail any of these. So there are 4 huge materials in order to collect. The first one you're going to find here in Coral. You're going to have Sid as your party member, and please make sure you've got Barrett in your party, and I'll explain why a little bit later on. And choose your next highest party member because there's some tough fights, including an Iron Giant on this sort of train ride over to the end. We've got a 10-minute timer to complete the fights, get all the way through to the end of this, and then what will happen is Sid will try and stop the train. You'll get this cutscene, which is about here, and if you're successful, the train will stop, and we're going to be picking up the huge materia that is loaded inside. So fantastic. Task 1 completed. So on to the next one. We're going to be heading over to Fort Condor, where you've got a little mini game to go through. Oh, use the 3x speed because they move so slowly. Essentially what you've got to do here is sort of a rock, paper, scissors situation where you will have enemies that will sort of start crawling their way up through the mountain and then start putting down some infantry that kind of combat them. So there'll be flying enemies, there'll be sort of, you know, brutes, and there'll be fighters, all that sort of stuff. So it will tell you who's strong and weak against whatever. But again, it's sort of rock, paper, scissors sort of situation where you'll want to put ones that are sort of strong against certain enemies against them. So make your way across there. There'll be a boss at the end to make sure that you kind of take down. It's a little tough, but if you've got enough money, you should be able to kind of put enough infantry down there to kind of sort it out. There'll be this short cutscene, and then you better collect the huge materia from the man down the stairs. Now, after a short break away from the huge materia mission, you'll get back with Cloud and Tifa. They kind of rejoin your party. You're going to head to the Junon sort of underwater reactor. It's a bit of a trek all the way down there, but essentially what you're trying to do is collect the huge materia from here, and it's been loaded onto a submarine. you'll need to then commandeer yourself a submarine and then go and chase after it. And after a short sort of mini game process here again, where you take the submarine out, travel back down into the water and basically find the submarine, and you'll be able to recover it from there. Very nice and easy. Once you finish this one, there's just one more left to go through, and it's actually very, very story related, so you're not going to miss this one. Head over to Rocket Town. The last sort of huge materia has been loaded up into the rocket. That's going to get blasted up, and I'm not going to tell you where because story spoilers. But essentially, you're going to be taking off in the rocket, and Sid is going to be mad excited, like, to get into space here. And it's a fantastic moment for him because it's kind of a story arc that kind of takes you through his character a little bit. He gets to relive that, and it's a bit of a story progression on his part. So it's very, very nice to see that. You're going to get this really, really cool cutscene where the rocket's going to get itself taken off, and then we're going to head our way into a small compartment where the huge materia is going to be held. And once we're inside there, we're going to be able to essentially just unlock the materia. Now, it's a bit of a puzzle the first time you play this. If you don't know the passcode, he'll sort of be throwing out remembering guesses, and he'll try and guide you to the right passcode. But circle square X X, I will never ever ever forget that passcode. So you get it first time, and that'll be all 4 of them. They'll be collected up, and you'll see them. They'll be loaded up at the Cosmo Canyon sort of observatory. So you'll be inside there. The blue one will house the Bahamut Zero materia, and that's where you'll be able to click on that and collect your lovely shiny new summon. Right, so apart from those missables, that's all you really need to know in order to actually just go through and finish the game. So if you haven't played this before, I do recommend taking your time to kind of get that story, you know, just drink it all in. If you have played this before and you're just here for the platinum, you know, use that 3x speed, whiz through the dialogue, get through the battles, get to the end of this game, and make sure you don't miss any of the missable stuff on there. We're now going to take a little look at some of the most post-game stuff. I'm going to take you through limit breaks first of all. I'm going to show you how to collect them. Some are really easy to kind of get hold of. In terms of leveling them up, make sure that you use the same tactic as Aerith. To get the second part of the limit break, just use it. It doesn't have to be too many times and it will pop up. And then in order to actually go from level to level, you just need to basically defeat enemies. So find areas where there's multiple enemies on screen. That's going to be your best bet. Make sure they're low levels, so they die really quickly. And the best thing you can do is basically just spam a summon or like an all materia, and it'll just wipe them out very quickly. So you can just do that, and that will level up your characters really, really quickly. Right, so let's start and kick things off with Cloud's limit break. It's called the Omni Slash, and you can see here just how awesome it actually is. Remember the first time seeing this one, it was just absolutely mind-blowing. Fantastic to see. It just lays waste to anything that's in front of it. So we're going to get this limit break by heading over to the Gold Saucer, and if you haven't got any GP, go to this guy here and he'll be able to hook you up with some. You'll need 32,000 points over at the Battle Arena. The Battle Arena is a funny one because you can get through these fights, and even though you're quite a high level, they can still cause a bit of an issue. Make sure you've got a ribbon attached. That way you get rid of any of the status effects. It will kind of help you out there. Because every time you win a fight, it changes up your... it kind of gives you a disadvantage every time. So it might drop your HP, MP, your magic away, all that sort of stuff. So get through the levels, try and hit all the battles, and then you'll grind your way all the way up to that point score that you need to get yourself some Omni Slash. Right, so this one's Barrett. Make sure you've got him in your party. We mentioned this earlier, and this takes place right after the huge materia sort of heist up on the train. So once you've stopped it, you better get yourself over to this location here. Go inside and just talk to this lady. She's going to basically just hand over the catastrophe level 4 limit break for Barrett. Do remember you do need him in your party before you go and collect this. Right, let's move on to Tifa's. Now, I had to rack my brains up a little bit for this one because I could not for the life of me think, how do you find out what the code is for this piano? Essentially, what you need to do is go to Tifa's house, go up to her bedroom, and play the piano. And you play basically Aerith's theme for some reason. And the only way that I can kind of sum this up, and I've looked this up online, is that it's just a code. And it's just something that you just meant to, I don't know, no. Best thing to do, look up the combination, punch it in, and you'll basically get a little dialogue at the end of this where Tifa will look behind the sheet music. And she's going to find her level 4 limit break, Final Heaven. It's a really, really simple one in terms of getting it, but I would just look up what the sheet music actually is, because it doesn't tell you. You get a little song and dance with Tifa, and job done, move on to the next one. Okay, on to Red 13. So we've already sort of touched on this one a little bit earlier, but while you're defeating the Lost Number boss in order to obtain Vincent, at the end of the fight you actually get the Cosmo Memory limit break for him. We move on to Kate Sith, and all you have to do is just use the character and defeat some enemies. There's no special item. It's not even a level 4, it's just a level 2 limit break. So yeah, just level it up the once and you'll get a silver trophy for it. Right, so we're moving on to Cid's level 4 limit break, which is called the High Wind. Now, once you gain access to the submarine, you'll be able to go down and seek out this sunken ship. Just be careful because Emerald Weapon is lurking around and you don't want to knock into him at this stage of the game. Now, once you get past the fight with the Turks, you'll come into this room, which is a full of treasure trove of like gear and materia, and also that limit break. Next one, and we're moving on to Yuffie's final limit break, which is All Creation. This is basically just a reward for completing the Wu-Tai sort of subplot area here. You defeat the boss, you get the item, job done. On to the final one here, Vincent's, and it's his Chaos limit break. This one's a really lovely one because you get a chance to sort of see Vincent's past with Lucrezia. Go to the location on the map using the submarine. You'll go in, you'll get a short story, you get chucked out. You need to go and hit 10 fights, come back, and you get the item. Alright team, on to a mini game, and I know you love mini games. This one's a really awesome one though, because it's such an iconic moment in the game. We're going to be heading over to the Gold Saucer, and we're going to be playing the G-Bike mini game, as you can see here. I'm going to give you a couple of tips when you're going through this. You need to accumulate a score of 10,050 points by the end of the run. Now, the attacks do have a slight time delay on it, so my recommendation is, when you hit the attack button, try and draw yourself sort of slightly away from the enemy, hit the attack button, and then move into the enemy, and then he'll actually land those attacks for you. Try and also like mix up the combinations, so you might hit somebody that's in front, and then when they slide, they'll knock into other people and they'll sort of fall over as well. So a couple of really good tips there, but good luck on getting that trophy. Alright, on to something a little more grindier now, but for my money, this is one of the more fun elements of this platinum, and actually really enjoyed this part. I love doing the whole chocobo breeding sort of side quest. It's fantastic fun. It's a little bit of a back and forth, but the first thing you need to do is head on over to the stables. Make sure you've got 10,000 gil, you should have by this point. Rent out the stables so you can then start to capture some chocobos themselves and move them inside the stables once you've got enough. There's a few areas around the world that you better get good and great chocobos from, because that's what you need to start off with. The areas that I picked out here are basically the area by the Gold Saucer, and there's another one over by Missable. I would go and sort of capture a few from the areas and then head back over to the stables, and then when you talk to Chocobo Billy, you'll be able to have a look at more detail as to what the chocobos are. He'll basically say whether they're not bad or average. You need them to say they're good or they're great. Once you do that, put those into the main stables, and I would definitely keep a male and female good and a male and female great. And then from that, you need to then go to Chocobo Billy and feed them some greens in order to boost their stats up. Once you've boosted up their stats, go over to the gold saucer and then basically race them. You only need to win 3 races with each chocobo, and with the times 3, it doesn't really take that long to be able to do. My tip here is to hold down the trigger buttons. That helps you to kind of keep your momentum going and level up those chocobos and get ready for some breeding. Right, now you've got the gist of what exactly you need to get done here. Let me talk you through step by step what you need to get done here. So you need to end up with a blue and a green chocobo from this, both of different genders to better mate together. Now you're going to need to make sure that you've leveled up your chocobos to at least level B from the racing. It doesn't take very long to do, and you need to try different combinations of mating. So you need to try like greats together or goods together or greats with goods. Make sure you make regular saves so you can kind of get like the RNG engine can be a little bit problematic here, so make sure you kind of do that. Once you've ended up with that, you need to then take those greens and blues, again feed them greens, take them over to the track, level them up to A rank this time, so a little bit more racing involved. You've only got 2 chocobos to do it with, so it's fine. Once you've leveled them up, take them back over, and you need to make sure that you breed them with a carob nut that's found from an enemy up in the north area. And while you're there, go over to the chocobo tracks and try and catch yourself a wonderful chocobo, because you're going to need that next. With the green and blue, mate them with the carob nut to get a black chocobo. Once with the black chocobo, you should have a black chocobo and also a wonderful chocobo. You then need to level those up from feeding greens and racing them up to S rank, and then breed those together with a 0 nut found over by the Medeal area from the goblins. Get that, breed them together, and you should have your gold chocobo. The last thing you'll need to do is to take your gold chocobo out for a spin over to the top right hand corner of your map. Now as you traverse through, you'll find yourself a little round island. Make your way into it, get off and into the cave, and inside is the Knights of the Round materia and your trophy. Next, I'm going to show you this really awesome grinding area. You're going to get a ton of experience and a ton of AP to get your boost up into your materia. So the one thing you do need to do is obviously level up at least one character up to level 99 in order to get silver trophy leads of leveling. You can also level up your materia here for 2 reasons. One, you might be able to get the Master Summon materia. That's another gold trophy if you do have all the summon materia. If you don't worry, I'm going to show you another trick that you can use to get it later. The other thing you can do with it is level up any green, blue, even potentially yellow materia, and you could be able to sell that in order to get enough gil to get the trophy, which is called coming up all 9s. So you do need to get a nice bit of sun there. So you're going to see on the screen that we're going to be hitting up these magic pots, just chuck an elixir and then defeat them very quickly, and you're going to get this ton of experience. Now just a little tip, make sure you've got double AP on your weapon and armor. If you don't know where that is, you're going to get armor from the Bone Village and also weapons from June and Weapon Shop. So equip those and you'll get that level up in no time. Alright, let's talk about the weapons. These things are absolutely amazing when I first saw them. They were secret bosses that were just way too powerful for my tiny brain back when I was a teenager. So for me, this was really awesome coming back to this, because I was able to actually master materia properly. I was able to level up my character successfully and actually be a bit more prepared to take these on. And for me, it was the first time beating them. So that was a really great moment for myself. I've been able to do that. So I'm going to take you through some of the sort of tips that you'll need in order to take them down. First of all, make sure you've got your characters leveled up. Get them Mime and Counter. Mime is over by the cave in Wutai. Counter is in the northern cave itself. Make sure you've got final attack materia. That's in the Gold Saucer Battle Arena. You've got to do a special match to obtain that. Make sure you've got Knights of the Round, Phoenix. I'm using MP Turbo on my sort of setup there. You'll see on Cloud I've got buffs for HP, MP, Magic, Speed to make sure, you know, everything is going as buffed as possible. I've got a similar setup with my other characters as well. Now for Emerald Weapon, it's really easy to take down. Once you've hit sort of once you've hit Knights of the Round, all your characters start miming that on counter. So as soon as he starts attacking, it's just going to counter with Knights of the Round all the time. And it's actually a pretty easy takedown.
Ruby weapon is a little bit more complicated. Make sure you've got 2 party members downed when you go into it. When you get KO'd, basically Phoenix is going to come into play here, because if you get killed, final attack materia summons Phoenix, all your party members will go up, then start to hit the Knights of the Round, and then counter. Ruby weapon will be taken down. Just be aware you can't attack him until he's got his claws in the ground. That's when you can actually get him down there. But to be honest with you, once you've got that tactic, they're pretty easy to take down. You get a gold trophy for each, and for a bonus, you get the Master Summon materia from the old man in Calm once you've defeated them. So go over to him, give him the item that he asked for, and he'll get you the Master Summon, which is the other gold trophy, and that is your platinum. So congratulations. So on to my review of this game. It's going to be different from the reviews that I normally give on games, because 1, they're normally new games, and 2, they're games that I haven't actually played before. So to go back and think about writing a review for this, it's a little more different, because you have to look at this in 2 ways. This is a 23-year-old game at this point. You know, you've got to kind of take it on that perspective of what it was like in 1997, and also think about what it's like in 2021 to go back and look at this game from 1997. So as a game of 1997, this game was groundbreaking. The graphics at the time were just outstanding. The CG cutscenes were just, it was so different from what you were used to. Like, CG was just really it started to be implemented into gaming, and to see it as it was in Final Fantasy VII was just mind-blowing. The characters, the story, there was nothing like it before. It was a game that transcended a generation of gamers. It changed people, it moved people. Looking back from 2021 eyes, I haven't played this game in probably about 15 years. I've played it sort of on and off and maybe gone back to it, but this is the first time since then I've really gone back and actually finished the game and done the whole thing. Obviously, looking back, like, what's the most iconic thing looking back is the music. That doesn't change. Like, that music is timeless. It moves you, it guides you through the story. Because there's no dialogue apart from text boxes, that's all you hear. So really, that was a great sense of just nostalgia, like, going through that. You've got the story, in a sense, is just, it's still obviously very unchanged from how I remember it. It's epic in its tale. It guides you through a narrative of ups and downs, and you know, you really feel like you have that adventure in front of you. You really feel the story being pushed along. There's no real, like, sort of down moments of time. The action is very sort of constant, moving from scene to set piece to set piece. When you're looking at it from 2021, like, graphically, it's gonna feel janky. Like, I ended up using, like, the ×3 a lot, just because the frames were a lot smoother in ×3 than they were in normal. They were very slow. Frames weren't brilliant. The blocky sprites, its charm is there, but you know, going back and playing it, it's a little more challenging. You can go and get yourself some mods on a sort of Steam version, which will help you to, you know, enjoy for modern gamers if you're not into the retro style of it. The gameplay is fantastic. Using the materia to mold your characters, and you can really get sort of overpowered as you get into the late game, and you really feel that sense of progression, like through there. You don't get anything too early that kind of ruins the game. You really feel like as you get to the end game part, you can really get some ultimate materia. It's locked away through, you know, gold chocobos and everything. So in order to get that, you have to really kind of get into the end game stuff, and it really rewards you with that. And taking down the weapons was just, you know, a magical moment of just feeling that power that you ultimately get. The other thing that I'll mention as well is looking back at it, reading the story obviously through the text boxes, was the translation is it's not brilliant. You have to kind of take the dialogue as it is, and even when you read it out loud, it doesn't read particularly well. So you kind of have to fill in the blanks yourself. But that's how storytelling, I suppose, in terms of reading books and text dialogue is going to get you. So like all in all, this is, as a full review, this is a must-play experience for anybody that wants to get a taste of what that sort of era of gaming was like. Play Final Fantasy VII, like get to grips with that. If you have played this before and you're looking to get the platinum, like for me, like experience this again. This was a wonderful opportunity to go back and really feel that journey one more time, to get in there into that world and just see it again. It was so fantastic for me. It was such a pleasure, like traveling back to that world, seeing those characters again, and doing it. I'm going to move on to the platinum itself. The platinum itself, it's one of those ones where you don't get a lot of reward for just simply playing the game. You have to really go out your way to get the trophies. That's how this trophy list is sort of set up. You have to get all the extra limit breaks. You have to get a lot of the extra stuff. There's a lot of end game grind, and most of the game you don't really get very many trophies going through it. So it can feel a little sort of bare if you're playing this for the first time. So do be aware of like some of the missables. My favorite trophy, I think it was Best Bromance. I'd never done that before. It was a scene that I'd sort of heard about and never got to. It was really great to do that, to see the scene with Barrett. It was so funny to get that dialogue choice. But also the other one I would do is Ruby Weapon. Like Ruby Weapon is the ultimate sort of boss in that game. To take him down was just, the elation that I got was just fantastic. That for me was just such a great sense of achievement for me. I really like the trophy list, and there's some stuff in there that it's not particularly overly difficult. Once you sort of get your head around and you know what you're doing with it, it's not too bad. So for me, this is definitely worth getting back to and going through that story again if you haven't, and earning those trophies and just getting that platinum and just putting that stamp of approval on a game such as this. I want to thank you all for joining me on this journey through Final Fantasy VII. This is a very special game to my heart, and I'm sure to yours as well. I want to wish you all very well moving forward. Do get yourself back into this game if you haven't already. I'm going to be doing more on the remake in coming videos, so make sure you go and sort of check that out. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate anybody that does take the time to look at my videos. Come and chat to me on Twitter. I'm over at This Platinum. You can see me over there and check out what I'm gaming. I live stream over on YouTube here. That's every Friday at 7:30 at UK time. So again, just sort of subscribe to the channel and you'll be able to see when I go live. You can come and join me and actually chat to me in person. I'd love to have you down and we can talk more about games or about Final Fantasy over on there. I'm going to leave you with this final image for the games, my favorite scene, and I will see you all very, very soon. Goodbye.